When life takes you to the valley, when the light seems to fade and you're standing in the shadows of your own disappointment, that's not the time to give up. That's the time to look deeper, because it's in the lows where you will find the God who never left you. Everybody loves the mountaintop, the applause, the success, the answered prayers, but it's in the valley where your faith is tested, where your character is shaped, and where your relationship with God becomes real. See, anyone can shout hallelujah when everything is going right, but can you still whisper thank you when everything is going wrong? Can you still lift your hands when the weight of life tries to pull you down? Because that's where God does his best work, not in your comfort, but in your conflict, not in your ease, but in your emptiness. Sometimes God allows you to walk through the low places not to punish you, but to prepare you. He takes you down so he can build you up. He lets you feel the pressure so he can produce power inside of you. You've been asking for strength, and God said, all right, but strength is born in the struggle. You've been praying for patience, and God said, then I've got to make you wait. You've been crying for peace, and God said, let me take you through the storm so you'll know who calms it. It's easy to forget, but the same God who was with you on the mountain is still God in the valley. Just because it's dark doesn't mean he's gone. The absence of light doesn't mean the absence of God. He's there in your tears, in your silence, in your confusion. And sometimes he hides in the very places you're trying to escape. The low points of your life are not the end of your story. They are the soil where your next chapter begins. When Joseph was thrown in the pit, God was there. When Daniel was in the lion's den, God was there. When Jesus was in the tomb, God was there. So don't mistake the pit for punishment, it's preparation. Don't confuse the silence for absence, it's strategy. God hides you in the low places because he's getting ready to reveal you in high places. You see, it's in the lows that you learn to pray for real. It's in the lows that you discover who your real friends are. It's in the lows that you stop depending on your plan and start trusting his purpose. You may not like the valley, but you will thank God for it when you look back and see what it produced in you. So if you're in a low season right now, don't run from it, look for God in it. He's shaping you, he's strengthening you, he's stretching your faith so it can carry the weight of your next blessing. What you call low, he calls foundation. And when the time is right, the same God who met you in the valley will lift you up to the mountain again, not so you can boast about where you've been, but so you can testify about who brought you through. Because the truth is, the valley wasn't your defeat. It was your classroom. It taught you how to walk by faith, how to stand when everything else fell, how to worship when you didn't understand. And when you come out of this, you'll realize he was there all along. When life brings you low, when the laughter stops and the silence grows heavy, you start to realize that not every low is meant to break you. Some lows are meant to build you. It's in those quiet, uncertain moments that you begin to discover who you really are and who God really is. People love to celebrate the mountain, the promotion, the healing, the victory, but nobody talks about the valley. The valley where prayers seem unanswered, where doors stay shut, and where you feel like you're standing still while the world keeps moving. Yet that is exactly where God hides his greatest lessons. The valley is not punishment, it's a process. It's the furnace where purpose is forged. You may not see it now, but what feels like a setback is often the setup for your next season. God uses the lows to strip away the noise, to silence the distractions, so that all you can hear is his whisper. When everything else is gone, when everyone else walks away, when all your strength is drained, that's when you finally stop trying to control it and start trusting him. It's easy to have faith when the sun is shining. It's easy to smile when your prayers are answered. But the true measure of your faith isn't seen in your joy, it's seen in your pain. Can you still believe when you can't see? Can you still trust when nothing makes sense? Can you still worship when your heart is breaking? That's where faith becomes real. That's where God reveals himself not just as your provider, but as your sustainer. In the lows, he teaches you that you don't need the crowd, you don't need the applause, you just need him. Every tear you've cried in the dark has been counted. Every night you've laid awake wondering why has been noted. You're not forgotten, you're being refined. The low place is not your grave, it's your ground for growth. Sometimes God takes you down before he takes you up. He buries you like a seed so he can bring something new out of you. Seeds don't grow on the surface. They grow in the dirt, in the dark, unseen, surrounded by pressure. But in that hidden place, something starts to shift. Roots begin to form, strength begins to grow. What looks like loss to you looks like preparation to God. You've been planted, not buried, and the same soil that covers you is the same soil that will feed you when it's time to rise. Don't curse the low place. It's doing more for you than the mountain ever could. It's in the lows that God proves his presence. He's the light that guides you when your vision fails, the peace that holds you when your world shakes, the hand that lifts you when your knees give out. The valley is where he shows you that you were never walking alone, that even in the silence, he was speaking. Even in the darkness, he was working. Even in the pain, he was preparing something greater than you could ever imagine. There are moments in life when the bottom falls out, when what you built with your own hands starts to crumble, and you find yourself surrounded by pieces of what used to be. It's in those moments that your heart aches to understand why, but heaven seems quiet. You look for God in the light, but you forget that sometimes he hides in the shadows. You expect him to show up in the celebration, but he shows up in the struggle. You want him to speak through thunder, but he whispers in the stillness. The lows of life are not empty places. They are sacred spaces where God works behind the scenes. He doesn't always shout. Sometimes he shapes. He doesn't always rush. Sometimes he refines. You may not recognize his hand because it's not moving the way you expected, but that doesn't mean he's not working. He's orchestrating something that requires the silence, something that demands the dark. When God allows a low season, he's not trying to destroy you, he's trying to develop you. You can't grow on the mountain because the air is too thin. Growth happens in the valley, where the soil is rich and the roots can go deep. The higher you go, the more fragile things become. That's why God lets you spend time down low, so you can build a foundation strong enough to carry what's coming next. You can't handle the mountain until you've been humbled in the valley. You can't stand tall until you've learned to kneel. Every disappointment, every delay, every detour is shaping you into someone who can handle destiny without losing humility. What feels like rejection might be God's redirection. What looks like the end might just be the turning point. You can't always trace God's hand, but you can trust his heart. When he hides himself in the low places, it's not abandonment. It's intimacy. He wants you to search for him, to press through the pain, to dig deeper into his presence. The low place forces you to stop leaning on what's comfortable and start leaning on what's eternal. It's there that you stop performing and start praying. It's there that your tears become your testimony. Every valley has a purpose, and sometimes that purpose is simply to show you that you are not your success. You are not your failure. You are not what you've lost. You are who he says you are. The beauty of the low is that it reveals the strength you didn't know you had. You find out that you can't survive what you thought would kill you. You realize that the same God who was with you in the sunshine is still God in the storm. The same hand that lifted you before is the one holding you now. You may be walking through the dark, but you're walking with the light. And though the path feels heavy, every step you take in faith is leading you towards something far greater than what you left behind. When you've been through enough lows in life, you begin to understand that they are not signs of God's absence, but proof of his attention. The lows are where he tunes your spirit, where he separates what's temporary from what's eternal. You see, when everything is easy, you don't question much. You don't pause to reflect. But when the pressure comes, when the tears fall, when the nights stretch longer than you thought you could bear, that's when your heart starts seeking something. More than answers, it starts seeking him. In the lows, God removes the masks. He strips away your false strength, your need to be in control, your reliance on people who were never meant to carry your soul. The valley reveals truth, and though it hurts, it also heals. There's a kind of beauty that only grows in the dark. It's the beauty of endurance, the strength of surrender, the peace that passes understanding. You wouldn't know peace if you hadn't faced chaos. You wouldn't know grace if you hadn't fallen. You wouldn't know mercy if you hadn't needed it. The low place is the birthplace of revelation. It's where God shows you that what you lost doesn't define you, and that what you have left is still enough for Him to work with. Sometimes He has to let things break so you'll stop clinging to what was and start believing in what can be. The low reminds you that your power doesn't come from the position you hold or the people who applaud you. It comes from the presence of the one who holds you when everything else falls away. The enemy wants you to think the low means you failed, but God is using it to prove that you're favored. The valley doesn't disqualify you, it qualifies you. You can't lead with compassion until you've cried your own tears. You can't speak life into others until you've felt lifeless yourself. The oil that flows from your life is produced by the crushing you endured. Every moment you thought you couldn't make it, God was collecting the fragments and turning them into fuel. That's why you can't despise the season that hurt you. It's the same season that gave you the strength to heal. What broke you yesterday will bless someone else tomorrow. That's how God redeems pain. He recycles it into purpose. In the lows, God teaches you timing. He shows you that not everything delayed is denied. You might not see the end, but He's already written it. The valley isn't forever, it's a passage, and when you come out of it, you'll come out wiser, softer, stronger. The people who once pitied you will see a version of you they've never seen before. Not because you never fell, but because you learned how to rise differently. The low didn't take your destiny, it revealed your depth. And when you walk out of that place, you don't walk out empty. You walk out equipped, anointed, and aware of the God who met you there. There are times in life when you reach a point so low that words can't even describe what you feel. You sit in silence, staring at the walls, wondering how everything changed so fast. You pray, but the answers don't come. You cry, but the relief never arrives. It's in those moments when your spirit whispers, "Where are you, God?" And though you can't see it, though you can't feel it, He's closer than your next breath. The low place has a way of making you believe you're forgotten, but that's a lie the pain tells you. You're not forgotten, you're being formed. You're being shaped in silence, molded in mystery, strengthened in the unseen. God does His finest work in places where no one's watching. It's easy to worship on the mountain, but worship means more in the valley. Anyone can thank God when the blessings overflow, but can you praise Him when everything dries up? Can you lift your voice when your heart is heavy? Can you trust Him when the outcome makes no sense? That's the kind of faith the low produces, not the kind that depends on feelings, but the kind that stands on truth. The low teaches you how to walk without sight, how to love without reason, how to hope without evidence. It pushes you to the edge of yourself so you can find the strength that's not your own. Every tear you cry in that place waters the seed of your next breakthrough. Every sleepless night becomes the evidence that you refuse to quit even when quitting seemed easier. The low is where faith graduates. It's where you move from memorizing scriptures to living them. It's where verses like "walk by faith and not by sight" become more than words, they become survival. God allows the low not to humiliate you, but to humble you. Because humility is what keeps you grounded when He lifts you. If He promoted you too early, the pressure of the blessing might crush you. So He uses the valley to build capacity. He allows certain things to die so that something stronger can be born. You might be mourning the loss of a season that can't come back, but God is preparing a new one that will make sense of everything you've been through. Sometimes you think the low means you've been set back, but you've actually been set apart. God hides you not because He's done with you, but because He's not done working in you. You're in a season of refinement, where everything unnecessary is being stripped away so only purpose remains. You can't see it now, but the same dirt that surrounds you will one day testify that it nourished you. You'll realize that the valley you hated became the foundation you needed. And when you look back, you'll understand that it was in the low that you found the version of yourself strong enough to carry the weight of glory that was waiting on the other side.